It's well established that statutory interpretation in Australia is undertaken according to the purposive approach, where the court identifies a purpose that the Parliament had in passing a piece of legislation and then interprets the legislation in furtherance of that purpose. This, of course, leads immediately to the question of how the court identifies the purpose of the Parliament. And again, it's well established that the court does this by looking to both intrinsic and extrinsic guides to interpretation. One of the key intrinsic guides to the purpose of a statute is, surprisingly enough, the purposes or objects clause of the statute. This is a clause usually found early in the statute where the Parliament quite explicitly sets out its purposes. The question which emerged in this case was whether that objects clause was the final word on parliamentary intention or whether courts can still examine other factors. The case arose from the development of a motor vehicle tunnel underneath some suburbs in Sydney. The government authority needed to acquire land from the plaintiffs in order to build the tunnel. More specifically, the government needed to acquire substratum because their intention was to build underneath the plaintiffs' homes without actually disturbing them. The plaintiffs were still opposed to this. The plaintiffs argued that the objects provision of the Roads Act, which was the statutory basis for the project, referred only to public roads, and as a result, the provisions of the Act, which allowed for compulsory acquisition of land, should be interpreted as only allowing the compulsory acquisition of land for public roads. The tunnel was intended to be a toll road, open to the public for a fee, but privately owned. As a result, the plaintiffs argued that compulsory acquisitions could not be made for the project. Justice Campbell disagreed, saying that any specific provision of the Act is not confined or constrained by the objects provision. The purposes are to be found in all of the objects in the objects provision, the nature of the functions conferred upon the Minister, RMS and other roads authorities, and the express powers conferred by operative provisions. From this case, we learn that while the objects provision of an Act is very helpful in determining its purpose, it is only one source of guidance. The Roads Authority was allowed to acquire the land, and the tunnel project went ahead.